Would you dare eat a species that was once nearly extinct? Why did Americans have to turn a national icon into food to save it? How did a wild animal, one that can't be domesticated, become a new star in the clean meat industry? And would you believe, the more people eat bison, the more their future is actually secured. Once a wild symbol of North America, bison almost vanished from the biological map due to human hands. Now it's those same humans who are bringing them back by putting them on the dinner table. In this video, we'll explore what makes bison completely different from regular cattle. Why are more and more farms switching from raising cattle to raising bison, even though they are hard to control and can't be domesticated? And is this truly the future of the clean meat industry, or just another cycle of commercialized nature? Stay until the end of the video, because what you're about to see might change how you view vegetarianism, clean eating, and even animal conservation. A very American paradox. To save a wild species, people have to eat it. At one point, bison were nearly extinct from North America, not because of an environmental crisis, but because humans hunted them to depletion. From over 60 million, they were reduced to just a few hundred surviving individuals. But the paradox is, to save that species, people are eating it. Today, bison meat is no longer a rarity. It's right there on the shelves of clean food supermarkets, labeled natural, sustainable, ethical meat. How did a wild species, one that cannot be domesticated, become a competitor to the beef industry? The answer starts with the way bison are raised, something that goes almost completely against every principle of industrialization. You can't call bison livestock in the traditional sense. They don't stand still to be petted, and they don't like being herded into pens. Even though they've been raised since the early 20th century, bison still cannot be trained like cattle. They don't respond to industrial feed. They don't come to the trough when called. Bison are direct descendants of the wild, with instincts too strong to be domesticated like cattle. So then why do people still raise them? Unlike industrial cattle ranches, where every movement is controlled by chains, enclosed pens, and force feeding, modern bison ranches have an unwritten rule. Don't try to change the bison's instincts. They are raised on open pastures, hundreds of hectares of land for each herd. No fixed barns, no narrow fences, no forced meal times. You don't control the bison, you just live alongside them. And that model is called hands-off ranching, farming without interference. Cattle can be herded with calls, a light whip, or a truck from behind. But bison cannot. They don't respond to human voices. They aren't afraid of whips, and they absolutely will not be forced. If you try to herd them, they won't run away. They'll turn and confront you. There have been cases of bison flipping pickup trucks, tearing down steel fences, and causing severe injury or death to ranchers. That's why the bison ranching industry is forced to adopt a method of control. That's almost like meditation. Pressure and release. Apply gentle pressure from a distance, then immediately release it, allowing the bison to make its own choice to move. You don't give commands. You just create a situation, and then step back. And if it goes, you're happy. If not, you wait. This is no longer ranching. It's applied psychology on wild animals. A model where no one is really in control. Only the more patient will survive. Do you think when it snows they'll be sheltered? Bison have 2 layers of fur, many times thicker than cattle, and can withstand cold down to -40 degrees Celsius while calmly grazing. They dig through the snow themselves, find dry grass, and survive without intervention. This is one of the rare livestock species in the world that doesn't need protection from rain, wind, or the cold. And no one dares to get close enough to help, even if they wanted to. Something incredibly interesting here is that bison are too wild to be vaccinated, too aggressive to be confined for hormone injections. But that very fact makes bison meat 100% natural in the true sense. No antibiotics, no growth hormones, no preventive antibiotics. The result? American consumers are captivated. While the industrial cattle industry is heavily criticized for using hormones and causing high methane emissions, bison stand out as a pristine, all-natural option that doesn't require lengthy certifications. Is there any meat cleaner than meat from an animal that's never been injected with anything? Raising bison isn't just about keeping them alive. It's also about bringing an entire ecosystem back to life. You could call bison ecological plows. When a herd of bison moves, they don't graze like cattle. Instead, they trample down old grass, churn up dry soil, leave behind loose, dry dung, and then continue moving. This very cycle helps regenerate root systems, revitalize the topsoil, allowing the grasslands to recover naturally without fertilizer. And did you know that bison dung has incredibly unique characteristics? It's drier and looser than cattle dung, less smelly, less ammonia, doesn't smother the soil. And it's distributed evenly along their migration paths, not accumulating in dead spots like cattle ranches. And it doesn't need to be cleaned up, because the dung decomposes naturally and becomes perfect nutrition for native grasses. No need for tillers. No need for chemical fertilizers. No need for modern irrigation systems. Bison improve the land by living true to their wild instincts. That's something no cattle can do, because cattle stay in one place, eat the land bare, and create barren dead patches. Many studies also show bison help the soil retain carbon better than cattle, because they help native grasses grow, prevent erosion, and truly restore grasslands. In many states like South Dakota, Montana, or Colorado, bison ranches are not just places for raising animals. They are centers for restoring the prairie ecosystems that were destroyed by the cattle industry before. No artificial breeding, no forced seasonal reproduction, just letting bison choose their own mates at the right time, in their own way. Have you ever heard of a ranching model that lets animals reproduce freely and still be profitable? This is the only way to keep the wild genes, avoid inbreeding, and maintain survival instincts. Bison remain bison, not modified. At first glance, raising bison might seem economically illogical. They need a lot of land. They don't tolerate confinement. They can't be forced to gain weight. They grow slower than cattle. But there's something few people would expect. The operating costs are extremely low. Ranches don't need feed storage barns, no regular vaccinations, no major disease treatment costs. A herd of bison is left for nature to manage, and that's precisely how costs are optimized. Moreover, because bison provide naturally clean meat, the selling price is 2 to 3 times higher than regular beef, especially when sold through chains like Whole Foods, Sprouts, or farm-to-table restaurants. And this isn't just beef, merely labeled natural. When you eat bison meat, you are eating meat from an animal that is still wild. Although born on a farm, bison haven't lost their herd behavior, they aren't dependent on humans, and their genetics have changed very little compared to their ancestors 200 years ago. Therefore, this isn't just a difference in meat. It's a difference in how we view agriculture, not domestication, but living in parallel. That's why many people believe that raising bison could be the future of American-style ecological agriculture. But this parallel existence only persists if there are buyers. Here's a paradox. To conserve a wild species, humans have to put it on a plate. Someone has to be willing to pay for each cut of meat, for there to be a reason to maintain the herd. Is this truly a sustainable model to maintain this paradoxical conservation? And what really keeps this paradox alive? We will explore that in the next section, where bison meat is no longer on the ranch, but has reached the dinner table, labeled clean, and has become part of a new consumer culture. Meat with a story. Meat must have a story. That's the new criterion for a segment of American consumers over the past decade. They don't just want to eat well, They want to eat right. To eat meat with clear origins, that wasn't killed indiscriminately, doesn't cause pollution, and isn't hidden behind indifferent industrial assembly lines. And in the list of meats that meet these criteria, bison is emerging as a new symbol. In supermarkets like Whole Foods, Sprouts, or even some special Costco stores, bison meat is often in its own section. Carefully packaged, labeled, grass-fed bison, no hormones, no antibiotics, born wild. The price? At least 30 to 40% higher than organic beef, and potentially 2 to 3 times more than regular beef. But people still buy it. Because this is more than just meat. It's a packaged lifestyle. A statement. I don't support industrialization. I eat something that aligns with ecology, and I contribute to conservation. It sounds ideal, but when ethics and the market sit down at the table together, there's a strange truth. Precisely because bison are a wild species, every cut of bison meat carries the feeling of true naturalness. No cramped pens, no chains, no injections. Consumers love that and are willing to pay for it. But because of that, every bison that dies is a wild-gened individual being taken away. Do you see the paradox? If they are not killed, the market doesn't exist. Farms stop raising them. The bison herd disappears. If too many are killed, what's the point of conservation? The U.S. bison industry is currently strictly controlled. Ranches only harvest a small percentage of the herd each year, maintaining the herd structure, with no confinement and no mass artificial breeding intervention like with cattle. But this leads to a bigger question. Is conservation through consumption truly conservation? Or is it just a naturalized version of consumerism? Not everyone eats bison. But for those pursuing clean food, especially the high-conscious consumers group, this is a responsible meal. Many people eat bison for health reasons. Up to 30% less fat than beef, rich in iron and vitamin B12, low cholesterol levels. But some others choose bison for ethical reasons, better than factory beef. At least they lived free, shared a consumer in Colorado. Here, freedom before death becomes part of the meat's value. Bison weren't forced to live, so dying is less of a sin. An argument that sounds very American. Very typical of how everything is marketized, even conscience. But do you know the real reason the eat to conserve paradox exists? A sad truth that few people know, bison are an icon, but not an animal fully protected under U.S. federal law. Unlike gray wolves, grizzly bears, or bald eagles, bison are considered livestock in most states. In other words, the conservation of this species doesn't come from law, but from the market. As long as there are people eating bison meat, there will be people raising them. As long as there are people willing to pay a high price, the bison herd will continue to grow. But what if the market collapses? What if consumers go back to cheap beef? This entire voluntary conservation ecosystem could evaporate in just a few years. Not all species are protected by fences and laws. Some species, like bison, survive because they are consumed correctly. In a world where humans once hunted them to the brink, now keeping them in existence is closely tied to market demand. A strange loop. The more they are eaten, the more reason there is to raise them. The more demand there is, the more opportunity there is for conservation. But do you believe that is the right thing? Does a species that only exists if it brings profit truly exist? Are we protecting nature, or just redefining control over it? You can look at a piece of bison meat as a sustainable solution, or as another symbol of compromise between ethics and profit, between conservation and consumption. Please leave your thoughts so we can discuss.